What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this week and every week, the reason he seems so withdrawn is because he's afraid of being hurt. It's Dezrah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And sitting across from me, of course, is Brian Paul.
And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we sit around and we dust the blow off an old PlayStation VR game, sometimes all the way back from launch day.
Before times.
We check it out. We play the crap out of it, and we see if it's been given any love by the developers, see if it's been patched, any DLC, all that good stuff, and then we tell you whether it's worth your time.
Yes.
That being said, what game did we decide to review this week?
100-foot robot golf.
That was pretty good. I like
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
I like that. 100-foot robot golf by No Goblin LLC. Released on October 13th, 2016. Actually, I'm pretty sure it came out a couple days before.
So it came out a couple days before just on PS4, and then the PSVR version launched like 4 days later.
Bing! Yay. For $19.99. This is the dumbest question I've ever asked you. What kind of game is this, Des?
It's a 100-foot robot golf game.
And here's the thing.
Yes.
The premise of this game and the trailers of this game are the coolest concept for any game ever made, pretty much.
It sounds fantastic. I've even described this to a couple non-gamers at work tonight. They're like, oh, what are you working on? It's like, well, the title of the game is 100-foot robot golf, and you get a chuckle just right there. And yeah, it's a fantastic premise. You are this 100-foot tall giant Gundam mech, whatever, sitting there and playing golf through cities and smashing up buildings.
Well, right, and that's kind of like, I think what I anticipated this game was going to be was going to be even more chaotic than the game we got.
Yes,
because when you say, okay, you can take your golf club and you can smash buildings that are in the way. No more obstacles.
Yep.
You just kind of assume that you're sort of fighting each other. You sort of assume that this is this mad brawl.
Yes.
Because in the non-VR version, at least, you can have 4 players playing at once.
Right. And actually, no, in the VR version as well. But you have to do multiplayer when you have the AI bots.
So there's no, you can't play against another human in multiplayer, or can you?
Yeah.
Because I was able to, but the social screen doesn't do anything. So here I am in VR playing as player 1.
Yeah.
And then player 2 can only see what I see on the TV.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to get multiplayer working at all for the core game.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we could get the multiplayer working like if we're all on flat screen.
Exactly.
Yes, but yeah,
this is a PlayStation VR channel, Des. And it gives you the option when you're in VR to play multiplayer with real people.
Right.
It says, okay, turn on your controller, hit the X button, and then well, where's my social screen? Usually one person gets to play in VR and then the other people have to play on the TV.
Right.
But that just doesn't exist here for this.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to test that part of it out, so I can't speak to that.
Well, we're starting off on the wrong foot, because if I'm wrong about this and anybody knows how to make this work properly, please let me know. It seems like a massive oversight.
Yeah, I mean, making the multiplayer work on the flat screen is pretty simple and easy, and it works pretty well. But yeah, the VR to flat screen, we're not sure about that.
Yeah. So here we are. We're giant 100-foot robots. You pick from one of 11, I think it is.
Yeah.
And you play golf in these in cities.
Well, it's Hawaii. You have the moon colonies.
This is great, man. This is Hawaii.
Hawaii, the moon colonies. You have the Mariana Trench, and then you have the Himalayas.
Yeah, and the trench is the bottom of the ocean.
Yes, it's the bottom of the ocean one. Yeah,
I don't know stuff like this.
And I think before we go any further, there's something else we need to talk about, which I think is kind of the acid test. The should we or shouldn't we for this game?
Is it the electric Kool-Aid acid test?
No, it's not that.
It's the only acid test I'm aware of.
It's the Mabim Bam acid test.
Talk to me.
My brother, and me.
Yep, and this is where you and I part ways for the rest of the show.
Yeah, so one thing that was a total surprise to me, because again, I try to do as little research as possible before I actually play the game, was that the McElroy brothers, from my brother and me, and other amazing podcasts, are the golf commentators for the game. And most of the voiceover you hear during the game will be the three of them. And it's pretty much just them. I don't think they were given any kind of script. I think it's just them absolutely riffing on the whole idea of golf and the whole idea of robot golf. So you need to be decided pretty much right away if you're on board with their style of humor. And not only that, kind of a very quieter and more subdued form of their humor as well. Because if you're not on board, this is going to be a slog for you.
This was a slog for me. and honestly, like, I mean, and I think hopefully by now people know where I'm coming from. If this is your first time tuning in, full disclosure, my sense of humor isn't the best. I love stand-up comedy, and that's pretty much where I stop like enjoying comedy at all. I don't like comedy movies. I don't like any other form of comedy, really.
Yeah.
These guys got me to laugh a couple times.
Okay.
You know, they're talking about the like the robot apocalypse and a couple of the
and just a reminder, we blew up the moon.
Yeah. And so there was a couple funny lines that they just kind of like, you know, they shoved in there, but like 95% of it, I wasn't on board at all. I was just like, I was like, man, and I think it doesn't help that this whole game is sort of set against the backdrop of like a 90s anime.
Yes.
Like it reeks of like Cowboy Bebop or something.
Oh yeah. No, it wears that right on its face, and that's what it's supposed to be, you know. And even like when the cutscenes start, you'll even see like, you know, just like the nasty little watermark, you know, subbed by XX, you know, torrent freak or whatever.
Yeah. And I love anime.
Yeah.
I love anime, and this was like kind of my anime heyday. So it's like I like the art style of the anime, but then they're like delivering this story that is like so lackadaisical and so like just like for me just like boring. Right. And I'm watching this being like, and I gave every cutscene about a minute until I was like, okay, just skip through the rest of it.
Okay.
I got to move on, and because they're doing this intentional, awful overdub voice acting,
right? Because
of that, I'm like, okay, I'm not interested in what you're doing here. And then I get to the course, and I'm trying to play golf, and I get the commentators, and I'm like, I'm not actually interested in what you guys are doing either. And it's just kind of like snowballing effect.
Yeah.
And then there's the golf itself,
right?
Which snowballs into the biggest snowball, because I don't think it's a very fun golf game.
Yeah, I think what really doesn't do it any favors is the total lack of tutorial.
Thank you.
And the fact that the VR UI is really hard to see and understand what's going on, whereas like the flat screen UI, like you can suddenly it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, like I don't know, like when I'm playing in VR, and sometimes on the flat screen, I don't know who's in the lead. Like I don't know like what's par for this course, you know, and I think that's all there on the screen even in VR.
Yes,
but man, I don't know why it was so poorly placed.
Yeah, like one thing that threw me was I knew in playing in VR, I knew that hitting L1 changed where the distance target was.
Yeah.
I didn't know why.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure, like, why would I want to make that short of a shot? And then in flat, I realized, oh, that's cycling through the different clubs.
Right. There's only, in FYI, there's only 3 clubs.
Yeah.
There's the putter, the wedge, and the driver. And so if you're looking for a golf game that's going to give you a ton of control over your shot, no, this isn't it.
One thing I will say that I do like, because it isn't trying to be super accurate. It's definitely a more arcadey version of a golf game, but there are actually like 4 different stroke styles. You know, they're basically little different mini games. You know, one is your typical like power bar that's rising up and down, and then you got to stop it at the right place. And then there's the swing. Vonnie and Max has that. There's another one that's basically Ernie and Camilla. Yeah, they have basically this
pressure gauges.
Yeah, it's basically like 2 motors, and you've got to actually using the trigger buttons and what's that word? Analog. Because they're analog, you can actually hold them down. You have to hold them steady at the right things and then fire. There's another one. What do they call that? I'm gonna have to go to my notes on this one. For Suzume and Mason, it's the triple spin, where basically there's 3 rings with a timer going around. You have to stop each timer at exactly the right place. So there's a little bit of variety in those, and it is kind of satisfying when you like nail it at 99% or 100%. But
it's also like when you play a Quantic Dream game.
Okay.
and you have to use QuickTime events to set the table. And you're like,
yeah.
And after you've set the table and after you've like, you know, done all the chores using QuickTime events, you're like, can I just play the game now?
Yeah.
And this is the same thing. It's like, yeah, it's certainly satisfying to nail it, but at a certain point, you're like, can I just play the game?
Yeah.
Which, and this is the game.
Yeah.
It's like QuickTime events just to hit the ball, and at least they gave it an interesting spin, you know. But still, like even these things aren't terribly clear. Like you said, with the tutorial, even these could have gone a little bit further, because they're not all of them are totally self-explanatory.
No, I don't think they are. And we didn't even mention the fact that each of the bots has its own like special moves and special attacks, and there's nothing to tell you exactly like we just discovered something
moments ago.
Moments ago. Like, oh, let's try playing a multiplayer, me and you, right before so we can get a feel for that. And there was one of the balls, the party ball, which I didn't understand while I was playing single player, and actually ends up being really cool. You hit your opponent with it, and it forces them to dance for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, it's like just a special move.
Yeah, and we should be clear, like the way to win this game, it's not necessarily the least strokes, it's whoever gets their ball in the hole first.
Right.
So there's an advantage to, and you can, if someone's behind you, and you see their shot coming, you can jump up and block their shot.
Right. I feel like there's all of this stuff. It just wasn't implemented as well as it should have been.
Yes.
Because there are so many ways to impact someone else's game, right? You can jump in front of them. You can jump in front of him. Some people can fire projectiles, or some of the robots can fire projectiles. There's all these different things you can do, like smash into buildings, like do a whole like body slam. And it's like just, I don't know how long you'd have to play this game to like be able to master those, to be able to actually like effectively screw with someone else's game.
About 4.5 hours.
About 4.5 hours. and it just seems like it takes way too long for the fun to kick in.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, you're coming at it from the anime cutscene stuff didn't hit with you. The narration didn't hit with you, and so that just kind of added to like, I don't like this. For me, it's exactly the opposite.
Okay.
The anime stuff hit me like I got the joke. I got what they were going for. They have tons of references to like Neo Geo Evangelion. I wish I could say
Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yes, whatever.
You're welcome.
It's words that I read.
Even the logo for the golf club or whatever it is. It's the Nerve logo.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's those references there, and I'm completely on board with the humor of the McElroy brothers. So for me, like I'm going into the game, like I'm already having a good time, and I'm being a little more forgiving of the wonky gameplay.
Yeah,
and for me, it's just like I like the idea of what they're doing. But yeah, the execution is not quite there.
I mean, I'm coming down hard on this thing, but like let's be fair. Like V-Robot is $15 on the PlayStation Store, and like all that is just going into cities and destroying them.
Yeah.
And this game, a golf game, does that better.
Yeah.
So I feel like we started with our impressions.
Okay.
We started with our rating.
That's true.
And now we got to backtrack and actually like discuss the minute details of the game.
So there's a couple of different ways to play. There's campaign, which is the story that basically jumps through world to world, and it plays like you're kind of like Street Fighter sort of thing, where you get all these different backstories of these characters sort of merging together, and you find out how they know each other, and they all have their different ways they got into the Robot Golf League. Then there's quick play. Quick play is basically you sit down, you can choose either like 5 random levels. You can choose to play each of the whole courses, so the 9 holes on the moon, the 9 holes underwater, the 9 holes whatever.
And what I love about quick play
is
that they say, "Oh, how do you want to play it?" Or like,
yes,
just give you like a ton of options for the rules. Say, "Hey, do you want to play this the first to the hole wins? Do you want to play this like as an actual game of golf, like trying to get under par?" And it's just
you can force to take turns instead of having everyone all playing at once.
So if you want to play like an actual game of golf, then you've got everybody's golf. You don't need this game,
right?
But it is nice. It's like they said, "Hey, we've got this golf game, and golf is great because you can customize it," and they customize the crap out of the quick play games.
And the other thing too with the quick play and these and the mini. I don't want to call it a campaign, but if you do the quick play or these and you finish, with a particular character, there are different cutscenes and different endings for those characters. So if you've done all the campaign stuff and you want a little bit extra, and this is where some of the McElroy Brothers stuff is really funny. And one I asked you about, it basically ended with him saying, "Did we cash the check yet?" Okay, because you're just like paying homage to the fact that like, oh yeah, they are just kind of totally goofing off on this, and so I love that. There's the Hole of Fame. Did you play this at all?
No.
So Hole of Fame.
I think I missed out on something.
Yeah, it's one of the options there. It's basically 36 holes.
Okay.
one timer,
Okay.
and then your score goes up on like an online leaderboard to see if you can be the best. So it's basically every hole in the game, and you play them one right after another, and the timer goes, and the winner is whoever finishes in the.
I think I assumed it was the Hall of Fame was a Hall of Fame, and it was the leaderboards. I'm really glad I didn't play that, because 36 holes in a row would have probably killed me.
Yeah.
These courses are not typical golf courses.
No.
I mean, besides the fact that you're playing them in the middle of cities and on the moon and at the bottom of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of it, like some of these are like par 10 courses.
Oh yeah.
Or par 10 holes. I mean.
Yeah, they're all over the place. There are some that are like one par really. It's just basically like, and they're especially some of the Himalaya levels. It's just a series of broken up spaces. So you have to like aim for exactly this little floaty thing, and then kind of fly a robot over there.
I think the Himalayas was when I first started forming an opinion on this game.
Okay.
Because I really did. I thought the Hawaiian levels were awesome.
Yeah.
I think there's this great thing that this game does, where especially in the VR mode, where you are 100 foot tall. You're a 100 foot tall robot. Let's not forget about this. And there are people running around on the ground, like for their lives. Not in any particular direction. They get to one point and they just run back in the other direction. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is that you look down and you're like, there are people running for their lives, and that's awesome.
And I do on that. I love the fact the attitude of the game towards your destruction veers from chastising you for it to not caring to being okay with it. Yeah. Like even one of my favorite comments is like, it's okay, that building was full of racists.
Yeah.
Or there's another one, but then 5 minutes later you'll destroy a building, and they're like, oh, way to go. That was I can't remember the particular line.
What did that building ever do to you?
Yeah.
So there is this awesome sense of scale, right? And I think that comes across in the non-VR version okay, but I think it comes across in VR amazingly well because of the sense of immersion that VR automatically brings with it. The problem is that in VR, you suddenly have this horrible camera issue.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
I feel like, and I hate telling developers how they should have made their game, because since I don't make games, it's not really fair for me to say, well, I know the answer.
You're right.
But man, a first-person view in this game would have gone a long, long way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And not only is it not first person, like the camera's sort of perched, I'm going to say, up over the right shoulder of the bot.
Shoulder view-ish.
But it's stuck in the same place for all the different bots. So there's some bots where like your camera is in their shoulder, and you really can't see anything in certain shots unless you use the triangle button to actually change your view of the course. Which I guess it's okay because you can do that. You can still play the game, but if you could have a first person view, or I don't know, toggle between the two.
Yep. Something, or just let me move the camera where I want to.
Yeah, and that's where it gets a little like one thing you don't realize, because your camera is locked there. Like there'll be a time where you'll get your ball stuck up against a cliff face or something like that, and you'll be sitting there just driving into the wall over and over and over again trying to bounce it. You don't realize that actually you can just turn your aim around and aim the other way.
It's very it's not easy to do. I was going to say in VR, but I think even in the non-VR version, it's not terribly easy. Just like, I'm just going to turn around and shoot the other way.
In the flat screen, it is a little more, since you have a better view of where you are in space.
You still have to turn the camera, and then it's just this whole process.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, man, I feel awful because every 5 seconds I go, and this is why I don't like the game. But this is another reason I don't like the game.
Yeah.
Because so often in the Himalayan levels, this is actually, I was about to say this earlier. We got off topic.
Yeah.
Because it's so vertical, because by the end of the course you're like way high up and you start way down here, and you have to hit all these platforms leading up to it, you're very frequently shooting high, and then your ball hits up against a wall, and so and then you can't shoot over that ledge to get to the next ledge. So I'm constantly turning around and either using a wedge to kind of chip it out into somewhere easier to shoot from, or trying to putt it into the green somewhere. And so many times I've done this, and the ball goes like a foot, for no reason whatsoever. I've played a lot of golf games in my life. I
Yeah.
played Tiger, the Masters. What was that? I don't know, like 16 or something. I forget. And then and then Everybody's Golf and pretty much every single Hot Shots golf leading up to Everybody's Golf.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of golf games in my life. Never have I experienced an issue like this where you go, I'm going to sacrifice a shot to get to make my ball playable, and then it takes like you have to sacrifice 3 shots to get there. I've just found it almost broken in those situations.
So I did it first too. Like actually there was one of the Hawaiian levels that was that situation for me, and but I don't know. I think after taking some time with it, like maybe it's because I haven't played a lot of those other golf games. Like I've learned, I think I've learned how they want you to play this game.
Okay.
And there are still some issues, but like now I can kind of cruise through. Like I was getting caught up in the cliffs and all that my first time through too, and but I don't know. Maybe it's because I've gotten a little better, or maybe it's just because I've learned, like I said, I've learned how they implement things.
Sure.
That I'm a little bit. I'm not really getting as caught up. I'm actually like hitting par, which is when I first started playing it, damn near impossible.
I'm like, unless I run into one of those situations, I'm getting pars or birdies on every single hole.
Okay.
So for the most part, I feel like I have a grasp on what they want me to do.
Okay.
But then in those situations, I'm like, I'm just not getting it.
Yeah.
And so and I think the problem is like they've really nailed a lot of the 100-foot part of this game. Like hey, you got these giant robots and they can do some cool things, and man, you can destroy buildings. I love it.
Yeah.
And then they kind of, for me, they didn't nail the golf. I was like, well, that is half of your title.
Yeah.
But anyway, I said that the immersion was cool and that the sense of scale was cool. I will say that as far as like being a launch VR game, I think the graphics are like they're very colorful, and I think that makes up for a whole lot of lack of detail.
Yeah.
And those little people running around, they're awesome. So I'm gonna, as far as the graphics go, I'm gonna say, hey, this is actually an okay looking game. For
it's fine. It's fine for what it is and was. There's one other game. I want to call it a game mode, even though they hide it in the campaign.
Okay.
And that's the remote challenge.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting. Like for me, it was like it just sounds like one of those things that game designers pitch to each other, like, wouldn't this be cool if we made a game that made you do this? And they just kind of jammed it in here. And it's I think it's an interesting experiment, really difficult to play. And what it is basically gives you, and you can only play this on flat screen. You cannot do this in VR.
Right.
So if you're on only, if VR exclusive, then just fast forward a minute or two. But basically, it gives you 4 of those drone robots, and you're all at 4 Ts. And it's
4-player split screen.
It's 4-player split screen, yeah.
Except.
And your one controller controls all 4 simultaneously.
And the goal is to get all 4 golf balls into the hole. And
it's really, I mean, I don't know. I think it's really clever and an interesting sort of puzzle. To try to figure like how can I do this, because you want to just I have all 4, line up with the 4 Ts, they're all swing the same way and all go in the same place, right? No. Because physics and aim and wind and all that,
and buildings get in the way,
right? And so now it's like, I'm controlling all 4 of these, so I have to walk them, I have to walk this one here, but then they get in each other's way, and it's very frustrating, but I think in an interesting way.
I wish there was more. Like they showed us how creative they could be.
Yeah.
And I wish there was more of them. You beat the game and suddenly like, here's 5 modes like that. All different variations of it.
Yeah, this is a team, and we should also mention No Goblin is 2 people.
Yeah. 2 people.
Let me get their names. Sorry.
No, I'm glad you have them. I checked out their website today. I hate shitting on a game that was made by obviously a very talented team.
Yep. It is Dan Teasdale, he's worked for Harmonix and tons of other groups, and Panzer. And she is basically the designer and artist, so most of the visual style and all that comes from her. Most of the gaming programming comes from Dan. They're a great team, and they have obviously pulled in some other help here. Their previous game was Roundabout, which I think was a PS Plus free game a couple months ago.
Oh, was it? Yeah,
which again, I mean,
I think you're right, actually.
just the name of the concept of this title shows you how creative they are. In Roundabout, you were a limo driver. It was 1977. It's this B movie, just deliberately cheesy, full motion video, cutscenes, and the limo. You had to just drive around picking up people and whatnot. Except the limo just spun around in a circle.
Now I remember this game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you had to basically like angle it so it would whip around through street corners and all that. And again, like just crazy creative mechanic and just weird, awesome ideas. And execution is
Yeah.
getting there. But again, it's it's a 2-person team. So it's I don't know.
Well, so I want to round up our discussion.
Yeah.
About other things I like about this game.
Okay.
After you hit your ball,
Mhm.
unlike every other golf game I've ever played,
Yep.
you don't just end up at your ball.
Oh yeah, you gotta
go after it. And so, and at first I thought, I have to watch the ball animation. I have to watch the whole thing, and then I can move. Nope, you can just hit X, and then you can. The moment you hit the ball, you can hit triangle to fly, and you can just kind of like hover over the whole course, or you can go beat up on the other character, or try to block their shot. That whole deal. And you go chase your ball,
and you have to
course.
you have to too, especially when you're playing the campaign where it's a race to the hole. You need to hit the ball and go after it because you can't just wait for it to drop, and then because if you wait to chase it, the other bots will be past you.
And in VR again, it's cool, man. You hit triangle, and then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm kind of flying up high.
Yep. And just a motion sickness check-in, no issues. Like with the flying and the moving, not even the slightest hiccup of a glimmer. So,
and there are shops that you can buy stuff at to customize your 100-foot robot golfer.
Yeah, you can customize the skins, you can customize the ball, even different sounds it makes. And not only that, there's a special Saints Row store.
Which is the strangest thing on the face of the planet.
So eventually you will discover, once you do like once you go to not the campaign, the other one, mode, and it shows you other characters that aren't in the campaign. One of them is Pierce. Was it Pierce Washington?
I don't know. I don't have anybody's names. I never have names.
Oh, I've got them all right here. But yeah, Pierce Washington, I think it is one of the characters from Saints Row, and he actually is riding the mech that I think shows up. Is it first in Saints Row 2 maybe? But anyways, and so one of the shops you can deck out all of your bots in Saints Row colors. So that's cool, and it just comes from they're basically good friends with the folks at Volition. They said, "Hey, can we use your stuff in our game?" They said yes,
sure,
and there you go.
It's craziness.
Yeah.
So one of the things we do here on the show is we talk about what's been added, about price drops, all this stuff.
Yes.
And one of the biggest things that's been added, and I'm using the term "big" as loose as possible, is the Kaiju Driving Range DLC.
Yes, and which is an attempt to answer your question of like, how can I play a VR game with my flat screen friends in my apartment?
And this is the answer, huh?
This is an answer.
This is an answer. So what we didn't say about the core game is that it's DualShock 4 only.
Yes,
which is a little bit crazy, but I mean, considering it's a launch game, I'm not going to give them too much flack. I feel like for a golf game, a robot golf game where you beat up on each other and you swing a golf club. Where are my move controllers?
Yeah.
Well, they addressed it in the DLC, and they do call it the Driving Range or Kaiju Driving Range mode, but in fact, it's a separate download. It shows up separately as a different title on your PlayStation 4 home screen.
Yes.
Which just feels so strange considering that the content they delivered here is so minuscule.
It really is. Yeah.
It is one course. No, I'm sorry, one hole.
Yep.
Because it's just one driving range.
Yes.
Where somebody in non-VR, somebody sitting on the couch using the TV, is hitting the X button, angling the ball through 3 different rings on a driving range, trying to hit the golf ball through these 3 rings.
Yes.
But what is the person in VR doing?
You are a giant kaiju with like mantis-like claws, and you're trying to smash up buildings or do more smashing of the buildings before the bot hits you. And you're smashing the buildings as you just demonstrated was basically you aim your move controllers and pull the trigger and it kind of like flicks up.
So what I was doing was grabbing the buildings and then blocking the shot.
Oh, yes,
with
yeah.
them. So like the ball like barely ever made it past me, and sometimes I just take my claw and hit it. But very strange movement mechanic here. The move button on each move controller moves you left and right, but like almost in a click turning fashion, like a click movement fashion.
Right. It just jumps into, I think, 5 or 6 different like locations.
Basically, yeah. It's kind of jarring. It's very strange. It's literally something that I will play for the 20 minutes that I played it, and will never play again.
Yeah.
I love the concept. I love how they're like, let's get these two people playing together in VR, out of VR. Let's give somebody giant claws, like, you know, let them immerse themselves in this big, you know, crazy universe. But I was like, wow, I'm like, I bet this took a lot of work, and like, I'm not ever gonna play it again.
This is the one time where, like, for a team that shows so much creativity and really really thoughtful. There's a lot of thoughtfulness behind creating interesting mechanics, I think. And that, I mean, roundabout right off the bat, it's like, who would ever do that? And, you know, some of the ways you're controlling the boss specifically, like, you know, so there's so much creativity being brought to bear for all of this that it just, it seems like this thing just lands with a thud.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you know, kaiju driving range by these people sounds like a great idea. And then it's like, oh, I don't know. It just doesn't.
So the kaiju driving range came out almost a year later. Like,
right.
It was like September 12th of 2017. So like 11 months later. Free DLC.
Yes.
And now, as of today, it's $10. The game is $10.
Yeah.
Comes with the free DLC. So it's half price from launch, and you get some extra content.
Yeah.
So this is something we like to reward developers for being conscious of, you know, of the environment that their game has been released in.
Yeah.
You know, at launch there weren't a ton of options, and now there's a ton of options. So lowering your pricing, adding DLC, I mean, it's a good faith measure by people who make games.
And another thing that in my research, and I think in my experience, that has changed is the AI on the bots.
Okay.
When I first played it, and then was actually doing research, found a lot of comments about people in the early days of the game, found that the AI on your opponents is sometimes really, really bad, where they'll just kind of like continually, you know, just drive balls into the ocean.
That was my experience today.
Yeah. I did find that when I first played it, I think it must have been like a first build or something before I downloaded the Kaiju DLC. And when I actually played through the campaign, the first time I played through the campaign, it was not a challenge at all to beat the bots. Then I finished the campaign, and then coincidentally at the same time I also downloaded the Kaiju DLC, which I don't know, I think might have been kind of like backroad update or something.
Who knows?
Because now when I play and I go back to play those same levels, the bots are much more difficult. They're much better at just like blocking your shots. Or I had one, you know, I was just about to line up my shot, and right before I hit, it blasted a building to fall down on my path. And it was so well timed that it couldn't have been accidental.
Yeah, this is what like I really was hoping I'd see more of in the game.
Yeah, and that seems to be happening now more. So I don't know, is because I downloaded that, maybe that's where the update was hiding or something.
I know 100%. As far as my experience goes, both of them were downloaded before I started playing.
Okay.
This was strangely. People ask me all the time. They go, hey, you know, you've played every PlayStation VR game there is, right. And I'm like, and I was go, yeah, I think so. And this is one that stuck past me.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I didn't play Kaiju or the 100-foot Robot Golf proper game until today. Well, actually yesterday. But it's all the same. Yeah. Anyway,
all right.
Time to rate this sucker?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, so a rating scale is pretty simple. A 1 is, you got to buy this game. If you have the PSVR, it should absolutely be in your library. It's just the best of the platform, so go buy it. 2 is, sure, why not? If it's a genre you particularly like, or if it's on a decent sale, go ahead, pick it up. It's not going to hurt you. And 3 is, no. Do not buy this game. Friends don't let friends buy crap. We need to vote with our wallets and tell developers that we deserve better.
Yep.
So, a 1, 2, or 3? What do you think?
So, when we first talked about doing this game, I was kind of excited.
Yeah.
I remember we were talking at work, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like maybe like we've been all waiting for everybody's golf VR.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the whole time there's been like this okay golf game for PlayStation VR.
Sure.
Just kind of like, you know, tucked away in a corner, It got some, because I remember the reviews at launch.
Yeah.
I haven't checked any reviews since launch. But I remember at launch, I remember people talking about motion sickness and about like, camera issues or whatever. I remember thinking, motion sickness? I'm like, here they lie, got panned by some very respectable people for motion sickness. And I was like, well, I mean, so maybe this is a game I ignored. But really the whole time there was a hidden gem like tucked away in the corner.
Sure.
And I have to say that like the game is totally playable. Like it's not broken.
Right.
But it's certainly not something I enjoyed at all.
Okay.
I spent an hour with it yesterday. I spent 4 hours with it today, and I can't. The whole time I was just like, I cannot wait for this episode to be over because this was just simply not enjoyable for me.
Okay.
And I hate saying that because I love independent developers. I hate when people crap on a game for any unsubstantiated reason.
Sure.
But I feel like if a game just simply isn't fun, for me, I'm like, obviously everyone's going to be different, but for me, this is definitely a 3, but not in. Again, we need to redefine our 3. This is an ancient emulator situation for me, where the game is functional, it totally works. There are going to be people out there that still like it, but for me, I'm just not having any fun. So how can I recommend it if I'm not enjoying it?
Okay.
And so that's why it gets a 3 from me. I have a very strange feeling we're going to disagree on this one considerably.
Well, not as considerably as you might think. For me, it's. I mean, I'll cut this right. It's a 2.
Okay.
For me, like I had very similar feelings to this as if you go way back in our archives. There was I think we talked about Wii games for an episode.
Yeah, we did.
And I talked about the Harvey Birdman game.
Yeah, we did.
And that was another example of exactly like this. If you like Harvey Birdman, this was a great game. If you don't, this was awful. It was not even a game. And for me, this is like, it's the same thing. If you're on board with what they're trying to do with the humor, with the anime references, with the definitely on the nose, like really bad, deliberately underline that voice acting, and if you're on board with the McElroy brothers and their brand of humor, then this is great. And that kind of helps wash down all the other kind of weird game mechanics. So to me, this is my brother and me episode that I get to play a game while I'm listening to. And so if you like them, fantastic. And not only that, it's $10 now. It's often on sale from that.
Yeah.
And so you can pick this game up for like $4 or $5.
Yeah, it's been on sale for I want to say with a PlayStation Plus discount sometime at the end of last year.
Yeah.
It was on sale for like $2 or $3.
Yeah.
So
and for me, like my definition of a 2 is if it's on a decent sale or if it's a genre you particularly like. Right. If we slightly change it, say if it's a form of comedy you like, then this is going to be a 2 and you're going to enjoy it. I think even beyond some of the issues of the gaming. I think there's stuff that could definitely be improved. Like you said, I don't think it's broken as far as the game goes, but I can absolutely understand where it won't be, for a lot of people, won't be their cup of tea. Yeah. So I would say, you know what, you can get episodes of my brother and me for free. It's a podcast. You just listen to those. Listen to that for I don't know a minute or 2. If you're not on board with that, then don't bother with this game.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool. I guess this is why I didn't watch any of my anime dubbed back in the 90s.
Yeah. No, dubbing is it's an art form that can very often go very wrong.
Yeah, subtitles until very recently. Like I think only in the last decade or so did anime overdubs get better.
Yes, yeah.
Before that it was rough.
They started hiring actors and voice actors.
How dare they?
Yeah, I know.
Thank goodness.
I was just like, wait, is that an American? Come here.
Can
you read this?
I'm too old to read these days.
Yeah.
So that pretty much does it for another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. A strange game, strange episode. I can't wait to see what next week's episode brings because we don't have anything prepared. So that being said, we always want to hear what you want us to play. So leave that in the comments. Also join our Discord. Find that link in the comments.
I know. Discord now.
That's craziness, right?
Yeah, the music channel, I think is my favorite part of it right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And of course, we also want to hear what you thought of 100-Foot Robot Golf. What do you think of the McElroy brothers? Is Dez crazy or am I crazy? I think the answer is Both.
Yeah.
They're absolutely both crazy. For another episode of Why with PlayStation VR, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Des.
And we'll see you next week.